Ready to go?
It's one of those things I did book of business and all this stuff that no one used for like 6 months, and then what was I going to do? I was just building some validations. I built this validation set and I showed Teresa, so I thought, hey, this is all I need, and then it just grew and grew, and in 2 weeks, they're like, this is awesome. Why didn't we do this 6 months ago? You know?
Just didn't know what they wanted.
Hey, it's time for the December 2019 edition of Uncle Bob's Cigar Corner. Hi, everybody. Hello out there in the cloud. And welcome. We got a good crowd tonight. I've really decided to go out on a ledge this month and do something that the cigar snobs of the world would probably find not appealing, but the cigar explorers of the world would find very intriguing. And that is infused and flavored cigars, or better said, does this cigar smell funny to you? So I don't know much about flavored cigars because I don't frankly smoke them. I'm one of those cigar snobs that think flavored cigars is just taking away from the essence of the true cigar, or infused cigars. However, this time of the year at the Thunderbird, we get tons and tons of people that come in saying they want acids, they want Tatianas, they want Javas. They don't really smoke cigars much, but it's a holiday season and they like to party, and the infused or flavored cigars is a good way to get a little bit of tolerance for a cigar fine tobacco flavor. I didn't know a lot about how that all worked or what's going on, so I ran down a few rabbit holes, and what a bunch of discoveries I made. They were so exciting to me that I thought I'd share them with all of our friends that come to Uncle Bob's Cigar Corner. First of all, and before I even get into it, so I just touch it and it goes to the next slide. Oh, there it is. First of all, I'd really like to thank Jason Harvey for making this possible. We're streaming live right now, and it's going to be up on YouTube. And there's no way I could make that happen. I'd just be kicking the tires on my car and cussing out everybody. So, Jason, thank you very, very much. And I also want to thank Scott Duncan for putting together this slide deck for me, because once again, I'd just be fighting, cussing, and discussing and not be able to do anything. The only thing I really know how to do is talk, and I'm going to go ahead and do that until people don't want to listen anymore. That part's really, really fun for me. So, oh, and I also wanted to thank Barry Dickerson, who I thought was here earlier. He may not be here now. I think he might come back. But he kind of sparked my curiosity in flavored cigars when he says, you know, in the wine industry, as a parallel, there's a lot of essences that are important to really appreciate a fine wine. And this is Barry's. He lent it to me. And it's called Le Nez du Vin, which is the essences or the aromas that you pick up in wines. And we saw a very, very strong parallel to this in the cigar industry. Now, these are essences of various flavor notes that you pick up in wine, and it was kind of surprising. Later on, we can pass these around and sample them. But they didn't always smell like I thought they smelled, because what we pick up in aromas is often sugared down or enhanced or augmented with things that aren't even natural. So finding out what a good cigar tastes like even, or what it's infused with, or what that infusion does to the tobacco leaves in the cigar, was a real voyage of discovery. And just to open your minds up a little bit, not all enhanced cigars are made alike. There's two basic methods that go into this, and if you all know acid cigars, which I think that's the #1 big name in infused cigars, it's made by Drew Estates, and Drew Estates has a high-end element to their cigar, so when they make acids, they use nothing but the best long filler leaf they can get their hands on, and since they make Liga Privadas and undercrowns, they can get their hands on some pretty good leaf. And that's the filler and the binder as well as the wrapper. They claim their system is secret, but they don't coat any of the tobacco with any kind of essences, and they don't use food flavorings. Like some cigars you'll see a blueberry and you go, oh, I know what that is. I've eaten blueberries before. Or you'll see vanilla, or you'll see honey. Drew Estate has over 150 different botanicals, which are aroma essences that don't always equate to food. They equate to sweetness and sharpness and tropicalness and different kinds of aromas that you might pick up from flowers or from tree roots and all kinds of stuff. They combine those different aromas and they infuse the cigar simply by putting those aromas in a mist form in the same room as the tobacco. And keep in mind, all those acids are long leaf tobacco, so they got full leaf tobacco. The one secret essence that they don't tell anybody about, and I may be, you guys can Google this to see if I'm full of beans or not, but they will freeze the leaf or make the leaf very, very cold. Then as they take it out of the freezer and they put it into the absorption room, they will let the leaf warm up. As it's in the warming up process, almost like a fire cure process, it absorbs any kind of aromas that are in the room. So if you fire cure meat and you warm that meat up, that meat absorbs the smoke and the heat. Because of the temperature variation, it opens up the meat to bring in these aromas or taste. In the case of acid, they let the leaf, just being in the same room where they spray all these mists, and that mist gets absorbed into the leaf, and then they make a cigar. So that's called infusion. They don't take any kind of flavoring and push it into the leaf at all. It's infused by absorption in that same room. And various, well, I'll get into that later, but various elements of acid cigars have heavy infusion, light infusion, heavy filler and binder, like dark Maduros and light Candelas, and all of those go into the making up of the various flavors. So you have infused cigars that are made just like I said there, and you have flavored cigars. On a flavored cigar, one of the most famous is Ted Cigar, I think, makes a Louis XIV or some bourbon-infused cigar that's real famous. Gurkha does a lot of those. Basically, they will dip the cigar after it's been made in that flavoring syrup or slather it on the cigar and let it actually coat the cigar, which is exactly what you do in pipe tobacco. In pipe tobacco, they call it casing. The casing on a pipe tobacco is a flavor enhancement that's actually swabbed on or slathered on or dipped in or poured on the actual cigar. So you have infused cigars and then you have flavored cigars. Keep in mind another thing, in addition to pipe tobacco, is that cigarettes are all flavored. If you tried to smoke an unenhanced cigarette, it would be like smoking a cardboard box. It's not even tolerable. So to make smoking a cigarette tolerable and to make a Marlboro taste different than a Winston, taste different than a Kent or a Benson and Hedges, all of those taste different. Not because the tobacco was diligently researched and grown in a specific place, but just how they flavored that tobacco to make it smokable at all, to make it even smokable. So that world is all flavored cigars, or flavored tobacco, and that's the world that created back in the olden days, and these are still Swisher Sweets. Everybody remembers that's the biggest selling cigar in America is a Swisher Sweet. I think Backwoods is another one. The wrappers aren't even a real tobacco leaf. All they are is a tobacco mulch that's rolled out in sheets. It's an emulsion. And if you had to smoke that without some sort of flavor or sweetness on it, you'd never go back to smoking a second one. And as you know, there's people out there that still love Swisher Sweets and still love Backwoods, because that manufactured machine-made wrapper is similar to how cigarettes are coated with a flavoring, becomes that type of tobacco. So it becomes pleasurable for people, and they keep going back to it over and over again. So that kind of was curious. I thought, well, why are we so snobbish about thinking we don't want anything to make our tobacco taste better? You know, that sort of seems backwards to me. Also, because I know people like Nathan and Jeremy, that if you smoke a hunk of turkey or if you smoke a hunk of beef, it tastes better. And that's the same process that they use on the tobacco leaves to make the tobacco taste better. So smoking meats and smoking and putting like, all of the Toscanos that are flavored, and I believe the Tatianas that are flavored, are fire cured, just like a rack of ribs. So they put them in an environment that's enhanced with the mist of a flavor, and that enhancement, because of the heat and the mist of the flavor, gets absorbed into the tobacco, and all of a sudden you got a Tatiana, which is, by the way, made at the La Aurora factory. Another thing that they make at the La Aurora factory, which is the biggest product they make, is Marlboro cigarettes. And, and the way they use the process they learned from Marlboro cigarettes to make tobacco taste better, to make cigars taste better, is they put the tobacco that they're going to use in a great big drum. Remember when those of us that went to Nicaragua saw those great big Oliva drums? That wasn't the first place those things were used. They put them in a big drum, and they put nozzles into the drum. They rotate the drum, and they spray this mist of flavoring into that tobacco in the drum, and they let it mix up and spray and enhance the tobacco taste that way. They learned how to do that from making Marlboros, and they also make the Tatianas. I think Havana Honeys are made at not at La Aurora, but another factory that does similar stuff. So there's a huge history of how tobacco got even so that it tasted good enough to smoke that lies behind what us cigar snobs think is pure tobacco leaf. By the way, I don't really have a lot to share, and it seems like most everybody is smoking something, but I'm going to be lighting up a variant of a flavored cigar called a Fat Bottom Betty, made by Drew Estates. Actually, Deadwood. What state is Deadwood in? North Dakota, South Dakota. There's a cigar store in Deadwood, South Dakota, called Deadwood Cigars. They created the Fat Bottom Betty and the Crazy Alice and Sweet Jane. This is a long filler cigar made at Drew Estates, and it's got a sweetened tip. And because the tip is sweetened, and that tip is always on your lips through the whole length of the cigar, the dark, rich Maduro tobacco that they use in the filler comes out more chocolatey. It's like putting salt on your steak. You know, you think you got a good steak, and then you put a little bit of salt on it, and the flavor comes out, and it gets even better. So that sweetened tip brings the flavor out of this, and people swear that it's infused with Hershey chocolate bar syrup or something. So it really does make a difference. And if you're curious, I have some Javas here. I have some, what are those? Something Jack, Captain Jack. These are definitely flavored. There's something Jack's. I forget what the first name is to it. So if you're interested in trying one of these, just raise your hand and I'll get one to you. There we go. What would you like? The Java, yes.
Java as well.
I'll try it all.
There's a Java.
Thank you.
Did you want a Java, Kim?
Please.
Now, Java is a Rocky Patel product, but Rocky Patel has gone in with Drew Estates, and Drew Estates makes the Java for Rocky. If you can get one out of there, God bless you. I can't. If you can, it's yours. So the history, hey,
How's it going?
Danny, good to see you. Welcome to the party. We just got started. We're talking about flavored cigars this month, and you didn't miss much, but there's a huge history to flavored cigars being behind a lot of what we do. And there we go. So, as I said, Acid actually is the company that kept Drew Estates alive and gives them the money so they can make nice Liga Privadas and such. Some of the more noted big players in the flavored cigar industry, which by the way is more than half of the cigars in the United States, is the Acid, and the #1 Acid seller is the Cuba Cuba and the Blondie. Isla del Sol is made right in the same factory in the same room. Java is made in the same factory. Tatiana, believe it or not, is made by Nestor Miranda. And Nestor Miranda's stuff, I believe, is all made at the La Aurora factory in Dominican. So they brag about their high-end sticks, but they make a lot of Tatianas, and Nestor Miranda brags about his high-quality $20 cigars, but he's probably cashing more checks on the Tatianas than he is on the Nestor Miranda specials. CAO also, and they're part of General Cigar, they make a whole line of not infused, but flavored cigars, and those flavored cigars, they'll tell you they're honey, they're rum, they're blueberry, they have definite flavors that have been slathered on those wrapper leaves to make the taste come up. Oh, Trader Jack's, that's the one. I have a few Trader Jack's here, which, by the way, is a long filler cigar, and it's $2. And if I open the bag, it smells like, well, it's very tropical. It smells like a pina colada. And it's a $2 long filler cigar, and it's infused because yeah, you got to pass that around. It's unbelievable how strong that flavor. Oh, yeah. And believe it or not, that little stink bomb is made at JC Newman's, which is really part of Fuente.
Really?
Yeah. So, and Ray, you might remember, Fuente also makes those factory, what do they call them? Factory throwouts with the sweetened tip.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We've gone through bundles of those, and the truth is, it's not real outstanding tobacco. It's tolerable tobacco. What makes it appealing is the sweetness on the tip, or the enhanced flavoring that makes you want to have it, even though the tobacco, they didn't have to do a lot to grow that tobacco. It's just maybe sand leaf or lower primings and stuff that would have got thrown out on a high-end cigar, but they were able to use it for this. Now, another thing that people may not realize, and I didn't realize it, because I'll have some kids come up and they're there with their dates and they're getting ready to go to a party or something, and they don't know anything about cigars, but they know about Acid's the name of the cigar, and they want to know which one tastes like what. None of them have food names to them, and I don't know anything about them because I never smoke Acids. What I found out is that the different band colorings have a significant code to them as to how they categorize their cigars at Drew Estates for Acid cigars. The blue, and you'll see a lot of the Cuba Cuba, I believe, is a blue, and so is the Blondie. It's either a blue or a green. And those use milder tobacco, like a Connecticut shade wrapper. They use long fillers, and it's not strong. It's a light cigar blend, like a Connecticut would be. But to go along with that, the amount of infusion that they tightly monitor is very light. So you get a little bit of infusion, and it reminds you of maybe some different smells, aromas, flavors, and such, depending on the name, but it's very light. So if you want a lightly infused acid, you get with the blue and the green label range. The red is usually with a dark Maduro leaf in it, very strong filler leaves, and a very heavily infused and it's highly spicy infused variant. And there's probably 30 of them, but they're all red, and they're of a stronger cigar profile. So if you have someone that's not a cigar smoker and they like the Cuba Cuba and the Blondie, it's because they like a light cigar. And someone that's been through acids for a couple of years might want a red, or they're drinking heavily and they want something really strong, they try that. The gold is also a lighter tobacco, but it's more on the medium range. It's not light like a Connecticut, but the infusion is very subtle. So it's different than the blue, but it's still very subtle, almost like a sun-grown cigar version. It's very high quality wrapper leaf. It's a dark wrapper leaf, like a Maduro, and it's probably got a cocoa-y type of essence to it. But acid actually does have a hierarchy and variation by the band, so if you're just kind of not knowing what to say or do with somebody that's new in the acid, this is kind of a cheat sheet for you. Like I said earlier, Drew Estate uses over 150 different aromatic oils and botanical essences, and the real secret to their success is having people on staff that know how to blend these, almost like a vintner would blend a wine, that knows what'll complement what and then how long to leave it in that atmosphere and that environment. So that's essential to that. Well, I never knew any of this stuff about acids, because what do I care? I don't smoke acids. But now that I dug into it, I was kind of amazed at how much information goes into how they put their cigars together. So, who else beside acid even makes infused or flavored cigars? And, well, like I said, the Fat Bottom Betty, actually nub. Everybody loves a good nub, right? From Oliva. They have a huge bunch of various coffee nubs. They're the same size, same tobacco, just as good, but they have subtle coffee infused, coffee, mocha variations, espresso variations, but most of them are all coffee based. Macanudo just came out with some coffee and some, I believe there's a bourbon. Yeah, people are loving them. And they're from Altadis, so somewhere they figured out how to do this, and I believe they're flavored, not infused, but they are very popular with the flavored cigar people. Gurkha, we just had one come in from Gurkha. The box is almost empty, and Gurkha for a long time has done various liquors, mostly aged bourbons and stuff like that have been around a while, whiskeys. Even Nick Melillo, our good friend Nick Melillo, who we think is a cigar god, first thing he did was make the Upsetter, and that's a definitely highly flavored cigar. And it's very strong Rastaman kind of tropical type of flavor to it. The Fat Bottom Betty, which I told you about earlier, is this started out as a Christmas time seasonal cigar, and it got so, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop right here, and I'm going to open that door, because I can't even see anybody in the back.
Thanks, Bob. Also, Scott says, don't talk about selling cigars to kids. It's a bad idea. maybe refer to them as young adults.
Young adults, thank you, Scott. I consider anybody under 40 just a child anyway, so that's my fault. But yeah, these kids, you know, if you're 23 years old, you're a kid. No, young adults, people that are over, and it used to be 18, but now it's starting to look more and more like you got to be 21 before you can even think about it. I don't know. I'm not going to go there. That's all political. So the Fat Bottom Betty, Swisher Sweets, of course, is number one selling cigar. It has been forever. Backwoods is number 2. Havana Honeys are made at the Tabaca de Garcia, which is the biggest cigar factory in Dominican Republic. It's owned by Altadis. It's where they make Monte Cristo. It's where they make H. Upmann. When it opened up, they started with H. Upmann. And the Garcia family actually was H. Upmann from Cuba. And a very highly respected, fantastic cigar factory. And Cuban honeys are, I thought they were just like the convenience store of cigars. They make honey, they make vanilla, and they make rum, and they fly off the shelves, and they're $6, and who cares? Well, apparently all the flavored cigar young adults care a lot about these, because they buy them over and over and over again. Now, here's one of the aha moments for me. I was digging through all this stuff, and I saw somewhere that Perdomo makes a flavored cigar. I said, Perdomo doesn't make a flavored cigar. You know, we've been to the factory. Where do they hide that room? Well, they have an entire line called Mr. Hyde. And Mr. Hyde has about 10 different flavor variations, and it's a significant part of the Perdomo operation, and a very, very profitable part of the Perdomo operation. Think about it. When they sort through all those high-end leaves and they only get the top 30%, and they get all this other leaf that they can't afford to throw away, they got to make some efficient use of, it goes into cigars that you don't taste the tobacco anyway, you taste the taste. So if you ever see a Mr. Hyde's cigar, it came out of Esteli, Nicaragua, out of the Perdomo factory, and he's making tons of money doing that. Interesting. So, let's say, as some of you have already done tonight, you go on an adventure and you decide to smoke. By the way, I got to get some feedback here. Kim's smoking a Java.
It's definitely interesting. It's not, the sweetness is definitely unique.
Well,
the jury's still out.
You smoke high-end, fantastic, great cigars. So I respect your feedback and opinion on, is this just some kind of a toy, or is this a real deal, something that you might pick up again? Huh.
So I talk to people all the time about cigars, and I've had several ladies who've asked me about it, and they always end up mentioning acids, and I keep thinking, how have you even heard of that? But I think this is probably what I would probably start them off with. It's probably going to be a Java.
Does it have a coffee taste to it? Since it's called Java, I'm just thinking.
I think it's more chocolatey, but it's definitely sweet.
Definitely sweet. Who else is smoking a flavored or enhanced? Yeah, Carolyn.
Finished an acid, blondie.
Yeah.
It's kind of like patchouli, almost like smoking incense. It's really pleasurable.
Really?
Really good.
So you might pick one up in the future, and I know you smoke really great, fantastic, full-bodied cigars. Hats off to Carolyn. She's one of the best aficionados. Her and Steve are a couple of the best aficionados that I know of at the Thunderbird. Fantastic, very knowledgeable, and very much enjoy a good cigar. But so now you're smoking an acid blondie, and you're thinking you might do that again someday, if the occasion calls for it. Interesting. Who else has a flavored cigar for the first time tonight? Okay, I'm gonna light this one up in a minute if I ever shut up. So, what happens if we either get one or we buy one or somebody puts one in our Christmas stocking, the heck are we going to do with it? Well, first of all, don't put it in your humidor. It will talk to all your other cigars that you paid $20 a piece for, and it will turn them into juvenile delinquents, those are kids. If you put a flavored or infused cigar in any humidor, whether it's a big, expensive one, whether it's just a Tupperware, those cigars will bleed over the flavor, and that flavor will pollute and get into your non-flavored cigars. It's just a matter of days. So if you go up to the cigar store at the Thunderbird, you'll see that we keep all our infused cigars in a separate cabinet, in a separate humidor. In the back room, when we store them, we don't even store them in the same back room. We keep them totally separate, because that would have an undue influence on all the other cigars that are not flavored. If you look at Fat Bottom Betty, it's sitting there right next to the Liga Privada number 9s. You know why? It's not infused. If you look at a Rough Rider, it's made by La Galera by Hochi Blanco in Dominican Republic. It's sitting in with the Asylums, actually. It's sitting right next to all the Asylums. It's not infused. It's got a sweetened tip, that's all. The sweetness in the tip doesn't go out and pollute the other cigars like these flavors do. It's just kind of a nondescript sweetness. And what it does, like I said earlier, it just kind of enhances the natural flavor of the long filler, high-end, good tobacco that's in that cigar already. So, never, ever, ever put it in with, I would even go so far, and I do this when people buy cigars. If you buy a couple of flavored cigars and you buy non-flavored cigars, I put them in different Ziploc bags. I won't put them in the same bag, even to take them home. It'll really change things that much for you that quickly.
Scott asks, should he put the Padron 2000 with the Cuba Cubas?
Right away, Scott. Oh, yeah, there you go. Good example. The Padron 2000 would soon be talking to the Cuba Cuba, and that would be a Padron 2000 that's probably pretty unique. It might even taste better, who knows? But it would definitely influence it. Plus, are they celloing? I don't think they cello Padron. Well, they might cello the 1000 series now. But if they don't cello those 2000s, don't do it, Scott. At least go, run quick. Put us on hold and go get that cigar out of there. Another thing you might want to do, and this really, because like you're smoking a Java, if you go back to a normal cigar after that Java's done, your palate's gonna have a fight with you, and you're gonna say, gee, this cigar tastes funny. So really, cleansing your palate takes on a whole new dimension when you get these enhanced flavors into your palate. A lot of the recommendations as a basic is to just gargle with Listerine or something like that, but you really have to go one way or the other. If you're mixing up a flavored cigar with a non-flavored cigar, you're doing it wrong. You're really going to have to do serious palate cleansing and even nasal cleansing. However, I don't know how to do that. I don't want to. So, another interesting aspect, and I learned a whole bunch about flavored cigars from Cigar Aficionado. It was pretty interesting. But what was most interesting is you'll notice that Cigar Aficionado does not rate infused or flavored cigars, ever, because they have no reference point as to what is the standard. Every cigar, and they don't know what, like the acids, they don't know what they're infused with or how they're infused. There's no reference point that they can say, this is good or this is bad or this is too heavily infused. So since their own testers and raters are basically wine aficionados who switched over to cigars, their palate can't determine a measuring point for what's good or bad. So they said, you know, it's impossible. We can't even come up with a point system that would work in this world. So not because they don't like infused cigars, and not because they don't think it's worth it. They have no way of setting a foundation and a measuring point to test and grade an infused cigar against other infused cigars. All they can say is, well, they sell a lot of acids, I guess they must like them. So, Cigar Aficionado doesn't test them. And this was another thing that was really, really enlightening to me. 17%, let's see, if we had 10 people in here, almost two, we got about 20 people. So about 3 of the 20 people smoke. Oh, wow. Holy crap. Whoa. I just put this to my lips for the first time, he said.
And now he's tonguing it. He must like it.
Oh man, is that ever sweet? Oh my God. Oh, that tastes like. Wow. I digress. So, what was I saying? Oh, 17% of people that smoke long-filled, hand-rolled cigars, now I'm not just saying they tried it once. I'm not saying, oh, back when I was a kid and I was drunk, I had it. 17% of long filler, hand-rolled cigar smokers regularly smoke infused flavored cigars. Regularly meaning in a given month, they'll probably pick up 1 or 2. At a party, they'll probably have one. On an off day or sometime when they're just feeling like it, they'll come into the Thunderbird and they'll say, yeah, I'll have an acid, or I'll have a... Wow, I'll have a fat bottom Betty. I can't believe this thing.
Scott was asking, what are you smoking? I think he missed it.
Oh, yeah, hey Scott, I'm smoking a fat bottom Betty. And boy, is this ever sweet on the tip. It blew me away. I think I'm going to have a diabetic coma here.
Bob's in the room for...
Now, the tobacco smoke. Oh, this is a good cigar. How much do these cost? This has a nice, rich, dark Maduro type flavor profile, a lot of cocoa, but that sweetness transforms it. It's a whole different experience. Oh my God.
He said it sounds naughty.
It does. Yeah, it tastes naughty. So this is just kind of as I dug into this and looked down rabbit holes, I was shocked that 17% of all the people you know that smoke cigars, they'll grab an infused cigar once in a while. Interesting. So, I don't mean to quiz. Well, I do mean to quiz. Thanks, Scott. You made it into a quiz. And this is more of a quiz for me because I've got the answers. But why must a machine-made stick be enhanced to be smokable? Like I said earlier, the machine-made sticks are an emulsified tobacco mush product that's dried out in sheets and stamped out into and that's the wrapper. That's the best part of it. And then it just scraps inside. If you tried to smoke that, you'd be like smoking, like I said, like a cardboard box. It's not even a thing that would attract you in any way. So machine-made smokes have to be enhanced to even get a marketplace, to even have anybody come back and say, yeah, I'll buy another box of those. Another thing I learned is machine-made, and we're talking back to the Swisher Sweets. And if you just take Swisher Sweets and backwoods, you're talking about 80% of the market right there. The one essential ingredient is beer. Huh. So there you go. And I don't know if it's Bud Light. It's certainly not Michelob. It could be. But dilly to that. So The bottom line, and one of the things I wanted to share with everybody is we all know people that want to try cigars, but they may be off put by it, or they may have had a cigar a while back, or they think cigars smell yucky. So now you know, as maybe talking to a newbie, you know a little bit more about why these infused and enhanced cigars are so appealing, and why it works so well for people that are just put off by the thought of a cigar, which they're just in a smoky room like we're in right now, and they're just getting the off-gassing of what we're enjoying. So it's entirely different to them. This introductory cigar, and I'll tell you, it happens every day in there. A guy will come in, or a lady will come in and smoke an Eileen's Dream. I sell so many Eileen's Dream. So a guy comes in with his date. This is typical, this happens every weekend. Guy comes in with his date. He gets a Liga Privada number 9, and he sticks his chest out a little bit and says he's macho. And he says, "What do you want, honey?" And she says, "Oh, I don't know, something small." And I say, "How does this sound to you?" White cocoa and Irish cream liqueur, and it's called Eileen's Dream. It's a little tiny cigaretto. It's white. What is it? White cocoa, white something cocoa. And I start drooling just saying it, and they start drooling hearing it, and they go, "Yeah." And I sell them one of those cigars, and they go downstairs and they start drinking and playing footsie under the table. And an hour later, the guy comes back saying she wants another Eileen's Dream. And I haven't had anybody not want more of those. Typically, we sell them now by the little tin instead of by the onesie, because the people that try Eileen's Dream just once keep coming back and back and back and back. So that's kind of the effect of the infused cigars. In that case, it's actually not infused, but it's a flavored cigar that probably tastes terrible without all those nice little flavors in them. I was looking at this Tatiana nightcap, which we sell a lot of, and I thought, nightcap, that, you know, the Tatiana makes a cherry, and I think it's Tatiana, or maybe the Eileen's Dream Company, that makes. If you ever see Groovy Blue, run, because when you smell that cigar, it is like grape Kool-Aid on steroids. And if I'm up in the cigar store and they're down here in the corner and they light up a Groovy Blue, I smell grape Kool-Aid up in the cigar store 5 minutes later. It just infuses the whole room with this obnoxious grape Kool-Aid flavor. But a Tatiana nightcap is a vanilla over Marcona almonds with Cafe Arabica and Criollo cocoa. Huh. I know that's probably marketing, but that's what La Aurora says they put in their Tatiana cigars, and we can't keep them on the shelf. They sell so much.
Scott says, friends don't let friends smoke grape-flavored sticks.
I've been there, done that. I agree with Scott 100%. Thank you, Scott. Those grape-flavored cigars, they're called Groovy Blue, but they're grape Kool-Aid. Just grape Kool-Aid.
You talked about infused but you didn't talk about injected.
Oh, you're right. So, last month, a gentleman was in here for Uncle Bob's last month. And we were not talking about this, but somehow the idea of let's talk about it, I'm glad you brought that up, Bud, because that was intended to be part of my presentation. And he said, I take a good high quality cigar, like a $10 cigar, like a My Father. I think he was talking about a My Father Jaime. And he says, he goes and he gets some vape flavoring, and you can get 100 different vape flavors apparently to put in your vape sticks. And he says, I go to Enumclaw and I get a horse syringe. and I put the infusion in the syringe, the vape infusion, and I stick this needle down in the Jaime Garcia, and as I pull the needle out, I inject the cigar with, he said his favorite is blueberry. And we all went, how can you do that? And he says, you let it sit for a while till it dries out, and it's magnificent. So he makes his own infused cigars with a horse syringe. And don't ask me what I'm going to do with this, but I had to have it for the, and I'm glad you brought it because I forgot about it. But I had to have it for the presentation. So you can infuse your own cigars, and you can infuse them. Because a lot of people come in and they want some, like Pappy Van Winkle's a big one. What's it, Louis the 14th or some kind of old stuff is a big.
Yeah, Louis
the 15th. That's a big flavor for.
That's a really expensive injection.
For Gurkhas. And and here's another thought. I ran across this.
A bottle.
A lot of people, believe me, a lot of people buy a Gurkha in a tube, and then they think the only way to make it really good is dip it in their drink. And I saw guys that would dip the cigar in the drink, and then they'd come to me and complain because it wouldn't burn. Well, tip, here's a good tip. If you insist and you really want to dip a cigar in a fine single malted highly peated scotch, dip the head or the cap of the cigar where your lips are going to be, where it's never going to burn, and it doesn't care because it's a lot of times our cigars get kind of soft and mushy and moist anyways down that end. That's the part of the cigar you dip in the bourbon, let it dry out a little bit, and then you get the bourbon taste on your lips, and it never affects the smoke of the cigar. That was like an aha moment for me. I said, oh, that makes more sense than just throwing a cigar in a bottle and then hoping that you can smoke it later on. So those are some of the techniques and methods that people use. And yeah, thanks, Bud, because I spaced that out, and that was probably the most aha moment I had. I wish that guy was here tonight. I don't think. You're not him, are you? Yeah. Oh, okay. There was a gentleman that's here. There was a gentleman who was here last month, and I swear that's what spurred this whole thing on to me checking into flavored cigars. So does anybody have any input or feedback about flavored cigars? How many of us started with flavored cigars? Yeah, but
the Tatiana vanilla.
Yeah.
Is like baking cookies in your house.
There you go. What's bad about that?
I
right?
know.
And as you smoke the cigar, you're enjoying a cigar, and then you get the aroma in the house of, or wherever you're smoking, of baked cookies.
I had a party once where I took the ones that are cigarette size.
The little cigarellos, yeah.
Those, and just put them out for people to try and so forth. And I was amazed they were all gone. Somebody tried them. Of course, the house smelled like cookies.
So, yeah, and they were gone, and they actually got smoked. And as I've been. Well, Jeremy was at the wedding where I'm giving out high-end Padrones, and people are sitting around leaving 9/10 of a Padron in an ashtray and not caring about it, and they don't care. But had I been smart enough to put Tatiana vanillas out, and everybody would have had baked cookies, just smiling and saying, "Can I have another one?" Yeah. Who else? You had said.
I started with the acid blondes when I started smoking.
Yeah. That seemed a lot less offensive to you, probably, or easier to digest.
It was just what a friend introduced me to cigars with, and I rapidly transitioned up from there. But yeah, that was what I started with, was acids.
I am amazed. This Fat Bottom Betty's a pretty good cigar, and it's really more like a chocolate brownie, and it's very sweet than anything else. I'm as a guy who
Those two
likes
guys
to
are going to get Fat Bottom Betty.
do it.
We're gonna go get lots.
There we go.
I am blown away by everything this cigar does, and it's still a fine, good cigar.
You know, Bob, this reminds me of about 3 years ago. I was on a business trip in Costa Rica. I was with a group of guys, and we were trying to get a project approved. So we were invited to a party where we had to, basically under the impression we had to get the approval of the mayor, the local town leader in that area before we could do our project. We went to this party, and my boss, the guy that was in charge of the group, he had a couple of 1926 Padron Anniversarios. So you know, I talked to him and I was like, hey Mike, you really want to hand those out? We don't even know if these folks smoke cigars. He's like, well, you know, I want to develop good relationships, this, that, and the other. I was like, but you know, we could probably buy cheaper cigars until we know if these guys are, you know, really into cigars. He's like, no, don't worry about it.
And you don't want them throwing up.
So we go to the party, we go to the reunion, we meet the mayor, we give him a cigar, and one of his like political leaders, female that was there, she lit it up, and she took 3 puffs and ashed it like a cigarette, and about 3 hours later we see the mayor. Norms are different in Costa Rica, I guess. He takes the 1926 and starts splitting it in half, empties it out, and fills it up with weed and smokes. My boss Mike at the time, he was completely appalled. Point being, it would have been nice to have Fat Bottom Betty then instead of 1926 80th Anniversario cigars to hand around to folks that probably weren't going to enjoy them like maybe you or somebody else might.
Exactly.
I know.
Exactly.
Well, that's an enhanced cigar, right?
It's it's enhanced with marijuana, right?
Well, I don't know if anybody else was at Green City the day that the acid guy was there, and he was passing them out and wanted people to try them and so on and so forth. And after for me it was after the first puff, you know, I just kind of subtly kind of slipped it away. How could you possibly, you know?
Some flavored cigars, if you don't know you're going to have one, and it's just a foul, off-putting taste that you never expected in your mouth, and you reject it. There's a lot of people I know that there's no way they'd ever smoke a flavored cigar, and I'm one of them. But this sweetened tip, which shocked me, this tastes like good cigar tobacco, and it's really magnificent, and it's smoking well, and I'm enjoying it. And there's no bad taste. It's just the sweetness on the lips. And it's someone who likes to use my palate to get nuances out of the tobacco. This has definitely got a chocolate cocoa brownie kind of a tobacco profile to it that's consistent with a really fine, good hand-rolled cigar. You were going to say something, Mike? No? Oh, okay, good. Well, that...
Scott says dip the tip in hash oil.
Yes, Scott, we'll do that right away. Anybody got any hash oil in the room?
Also, he mentioned, I started out smoking sweetened tip baccarats until someone set me straight, and I'm ashamed to admit it.
Thank you for that. Actually, I had a sweetened tip cigar about 10 days ago. I can't remember what it was. Some rep gave it to me. And I really liked it, and I thought it was good. And I never thought it was, you know how I found out it was a sweetened tip cigar? I Googled that cigar later, and it said, oh, blah, 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 sweetened tip. What? That was a sweetened tip cigar? And I didn't even know it. Now, it was a light Connecticut, and I thought, oh, it doesn't have that bite to it. It has a nice, smooth, butterscotchy sweetness to it. I also thought that when Steve Saka made the brulee, Sober Mesa Brulee, which I bought a box of, and I swear now that I know it, I can taste the sweetness on the tip. Not as intense as this, but it makes the light Connecticut shade tobacco. It really brings out the good, delicate flavor of that tobacco without having this bite, or if you over smoke one especially, it'll get kind of a bitter bite to it towards the last third or so.
My father used to smoke the old rum crooks.
Rum crooks, yeah.
They're not around anymore, but that was what he smoked for years till I straightened him out and got him on better tobacco.
Well, and he could get those at the gas station. So there's that. How easy is it, how hard is it to find a good cigar store and have your wallet cooperate with you, as opposed to getting a Swisher or a Backwoods at the corner convenience store, 7-Eleven or whatever. So, but please keep them out of your humidor. Keep them someplace separate. They do need, many of them do need proper humidification. A lot of them sort of don't. Like the Toscanos are all dry cured, and I've got some Toscanos that they call Toscanellos. It's half a Toscano, and they've got cafe. Oh, these are all cafe. Now, they have cafe, and they have a number. They got like 5 or 6 different flavors, but the one that flies off the shelf before anything else is licorice or anise. And I open the jar that has these in it, and the whole room smells like licorice in 30 seconds. It's amazing how strong they are. For some reason, people really like them. The dry cured cigars, and a lot of the machine made or cigarillos, you don't have to put them in a humidor. They're dry cured, and they're gonna stay what they are and not have to worry about it. But that is pretty much it. And we got, thanks to Scott, we got a actually we got a photo. Was that in Nicaragua?
It's in Nicaragua.
Yeah, I thought so. Was that in the Los Arcos down in the?
Yeah, that was up on the
Up on the
second
balcony.
floor. Yeah, on the balcony.
Oh, that was.
That's not where the turtles walked around. The
No.
turtles
That's
walked around
downstairs.
downstairs. Yeah. So once again, I really want to thank Scott. I want to thank everybody that joined us on the internet. And keep in mind, thanks to Jason, this is also going to be under Uncle Bob's Cigar Corner. You can pull it up anytime you want, and you can look at bits and pieces. If you missed it, it'll be there, hopefully forever.
Art of the Herf.
Under Art of the Herf?
It's under Uncle Bob's Cigar Corner.
Uncle Bob's Cigar
Oh,
Corner.
it is? Okay.
Yeah, Art of the Herf is, we're working that up for all the cigar review files that I'm building, and the historical ones. So, yeah, this is it for December. I got to tell you, we just brought out this week tons of high-end Savinelli, Rossi, Peterson pipes, magnificent pipes. They're beautiful pipes at reasonable prices. But we also have jars of various pipe tobacco that they're all flavored. I've never seen a pipe tobacco that, they call it casing because pipe guys are smarter than us. I swear, when I got a pipe the other day, smoked a bowl, my IQ went up 10 points just by doing that. But you have to fiddle around with them a lot. Many of us have already had pipes or started with pipes or tried pipes. So what I'm leading up to is flavored cigars and flavored tobacco is the whole world of pipes. And next month, for January, Uncle Bob's Cigar Corner is going to become Cousin Bryce's Cigar Corner on the second Tuesday of January, and I'm going to introduce Bryce, and he is a huge aficionado. I think he's got over 700 pipes. He's got his own tobacco blends. He just, it's like a flood of knowledge that I couldn't even absorb, let alone repeat. So we're going to bring Bryce in here, Bryce Sandifer, our store manager, and he will answer tons of questions about pipes, about pipe tobacco. But the basic thing is, how do you put the tobacco in the pipe? How do you keep it lit? How do you do this and do that? All this fiddling around stuff. I bought a beautiful new pipe, a Savinelli. It's beautiful. And I just about broke it the first bowl I smoked, because I was lighting the tobacco with the jet lighter. If you ever see anyone do that, just tackle them like you're on a football team and throw them to the ground and grab it from them. And I didn't burn it, but I affected the finish of the pipe up at the top of the bowl because that was too much heat. You got to light them with a soft flame or with a match or a lower temperature, and you got to not let the flame touch the pipe. There's all these rules in pipes, and I have no idea what they are, but they're important, and Bryce is going to explain all that to us in January for the first Uncle Bob's Cigar Corner in the Roaring 20s. This is the last one for the teens. This is it. Yeah.
We're turning into adults.
Turning into a Roaring 20 adults. Yeah. And of course, we want to keep it going, and we're talking about all kinds of possibilities in the future with Uncle Bob's, thanks to Jason and Scott, who are getting me out there. And hopefully, we'll spread the word and do a lot of shares and do a lot of subscriptions, and maybe we'll get a bigger audience than we can get in just this one little smoky room. So I want to thank you and wish you all happy holidays. I want to thank Miss Vicki for giving us this venue to work in, and I want to thank all the supporters. This is actually over 2 years of Uncle Bob's Cigar Corner, which had really, really, really humble beginnings. But now I'm just looking forward to every month, and don't know what we'll do in February yet, but if you're interested at all in pipes, January is the month to tune in. Anybody have any other suggestions, input, talking around? I guess we can cut off the feed and just sit down, relax, and have a flavored cigar. Yay!